Hey everyone, very excited to be here with you. And so let's get to it. Today I'm going to actually talk to you about the myth of innate ability in technical professions by telling you a story about myself. I came of age in Lagos during the golden age of hip hop. I spent most of my days watching MTV, listening to Dr. Dre, Snoop. This was the era of The Chronic, Biggie Smalls, and Jay-Z. I was like that classic insouciant teenager who didn't want to do anything but just sit on the TV and just be there watching TV all day long. Growing up in Lagos, Nigeria, one of the things that we had was consistent power outages. And during those times when you have power outages, sometimes it's like for an hour, sometimes it's two. But there was one summer that we had chronic power outages, and I think we didn't have power for 3 weeks. And I became so bored. Most of the older family members had found ways to entertain themselves, and eventually I decided to start reading books because there was no power for 3 weeks. And the book that I read that kind of got me very excited was this book by Chukwemeka Ojukwu, Because I Am Involved. It's a chronicle of the Nigerian Biafra Civil War. Reading that book opened up a whole new world to me. In high school, my high school was this building filled with glass, like 6 stories, and my class was on the fourth floor. And in the mid afternoon, at the height of the sun, that was when we would start computer science classes. The computer science classes were mandatory, but they were also very, very boring. They were boring because we didn't actually like touch a computer. We were learning about von Neumann machines. We were learning about registers. We were learning about algorithmic logic units and CPUs and things like that. I just did enough to be able to pass that class and move forward. I just was not interested. Fast forward a few years post high school, I came to the States and I was now a student at Lemoyne Owen College in Memphis, Tennessee. Yet again, I found myself taking a mandatory computer class. However, this time around, something quite magical happened. I discovered the internet. And once I discovered the internet, I became deeply fascinated about that technology. I fell completely in love with the internet, and it changed my relationship with computer science. I actually turned and declared a computer science major and never looked back. While in high school, I found no interest and no meaning and no reason to engage with computers or computer science. But because I discovered the internet, all of that changed. One of the founding fathers of AI, Seymour Papert, has this thesis about how we learn. His thesis says that the things that makes you learn is that you have to have a relationship, a positive relationship with the collection of the ideas. And so, for example, one of the things that he mentioned in his book was this understanding of gears, that he used to play around with gears, and playing around with those gears gave him like a computational object to think with to actually onboard computer science. The same exact thing happened to me. I was fascinated by the internet. I became entranced by it. As a result, I had now this positive attachment to it. It then gave me the opportunity, the bridge, the connection that I needed to actually go and learn computer science. I wasn't taking computer science because I wanted to learn how to program. I was taking computer science because I wanted to understand the fundamental framework that allowed something like the internet to emerge. And I wanted to understand it so that I could extend it. I could make it do the things that I wanted it to do. One of my friends is a philosopher. He often says that knowledge is not infused, it is acquired. This process of knowledge acquisition is at the crux of understanding intelligence. One of the ways to think of knowledge is to think of it as a building, and the process of acquiring knowledge is the process of extending that building. So, from the science of learning, we know that when we acquire intellectual structures, otherwise known as knowledge, they take on both a logical and an emotional form. Basically, feelings matter when it comes to learning. The challenge to learning for a lot of people becomes one of creating a positive emotional attachment to the process of extending those knowledge buildings in our minds. One of the enduring myths about learning is that of innate ability, especially in fields that are abstract like mathematics, computer science, machine learning, and so on. There is a school of thought that actually believes that only 2% of the global population is capable of acquiring computational knowledge. And like all people, computer scientists, we like to feel special. So it's very easy for us to create idea. However, this idea is not true. And I say it, the reason we have low participation, historically, we've had low participation in computer science is because we have actually not leveraged how people learn when we teach computer science. We haven't brought the science of learning to the act of actual knowledge acquisition in a formal environment like a school. Whenever the question of maximizing participation in computer science is brought up, someone, often a misguided person with just enough knowledge to be dangerous, will say something like, the low numbers are there because the ability to learn computer science is inherently innate. With the understanding that knowledge is not infused, but it is acquired, we know that this cannot be the case. We have spent a lot of time focusing solely on the logical to the detriment of the emotional. We humans are socially wired. We need to experience a positive attachment to the things we want to learn, even if those things are abstract ideas. We just had Thanksgiving in the United States. And so I'm going to use Thanksgiving as an opportunity to do a thought exercise. Imagine for a second that you had a goal of creating the perfect Thanksgiving dinner. And you started in the test kitchen. And the things you started to do was you started in a station where they taught you how to brine. And once you perfected brining, then they take you to another station where you learn how to chop the onions. Then they take you to another station where you learn to blend cranberries for cranberry sauce. And you basically became a master in each of these things. Now imagine another scenario with the same example, creating the perfect Thanksgiving dinner. Instead of starting off in the test kitchen, this time around, you started off by actually attending a Thanksgiving dinner. You get to share in the love, laughter, and connection that sharing a meal with people you care about brings. And then after enjoying that meal, you're then taken to the test kitchen where you start your journey towards hosting your own perfect Thanksgiving dinner by doing exactly the same thing. You go learn how to blend the cranberries, you chop the onions, so on and so forth. Both of those methods have viable paths towards the final goal. But guess which one will be the more successful? Is it going to be A, perfecting technique without ever seeing the final results? Or is it going to be B, starting at the dinner table and then working backwards? It's definitely going to be B. This is exactly what we do when we introduce students to computer science. They often have no reason, no meaning, no positive emotional connection with the knowledge that they are acquiring. Instead, we teach them as if they were disembodied blobs, forcing techniques down their throat and then wondering why they find it difficult to move on with the computer science or grasp any of the ideas. Just like the title of the book that got me interested in reading, Because I Am Involved, you get an emotional connection to the act of learning when you are involved. My disinterest in my high school computer science class gave credence to the myth that I didn't have innate ability to learn the computing sciences. However, here I am today. That very same person who led credence to that myth is the same person who is demystifying it. So all of this happened because somewhere in my undergraduate studies, I discovered and fell in love with the internet, which created the emotional attachment that I needed to connect meaningfully to computer science. Naturally, accompanying this myth is the idea that one has to be a computer science person. Some of us aren't choosing computing because we feel we have to give up our identities, that we have to give up being a music person, a theater person, a historian, or an artist. I'm here to tell you that you don't have to give up your identity. There is more than enough room in the computing sciences to accommodate all of us. Every one of us who's not presently in computer science can use computation to enhance their skill. Your desire for music, your desire for poetry, that can become the emotional connection necessary that will allow you to fall in love with computation. I did exactly this as part of my doctoral work at UC Berkeley. There I created the Hippopathy Project. Hippopathy being a merger of the words hip hop and empathy. I designed a data science unit that allowed students to mine the lyrics of Jay-Z so they could understand his particular use of language. Because I loved hip hop, it was something that was naturally interesting to me. I could marry it with computation and do exploration in data science around that. Through my exploration and through my analysis, I discovered interesting things. I realized that rap poems had very similar structure to the Ifa corpus of my native Yoruba cosmology. Without bringing computation to rap, I would not have created the knowledge landscape in my mind that allowed me to make this connection. These are the kinds of special delights that occur when we bring computation to enhance other bodies of work. They call it CS plus X for all X. So in my case, it was computer science plus rap, created something altogether wonderful. Given that we are at the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution, soon society will have this big need to transition a lot of people into computational knowledge work. Knowledge of computer science will no longer be a nice to have. It will be a necessity. It will no longer be a thing for just the geeks or for the nerds. It will be for everybody, not just the special 2% with the false myth of innate ability. Computer science software is eating the world. It used to be in a technology vertical, but now today, with computation, we have our food delivered to us. We have recommendations on who we should date. We have recommendations on the kinds of clothes we should wear, the kinds of homes we should buy, the kinds of groceries we might want. All of this is happening through computation. It's infusing every aspect of society. So from the heat-laden classroom in Lagos to my home now in Oakland, I have made that transition from not being interested, not being involved, to actively being involved in computation, discrediting the myth of innate ability in computer science. Because we humans are teachable, we are purpose driven, we are actually learning machines. Because we know knowledge is not infused, but it's acquired, we all need to break that myth of innate ability. I urge you all to strongly consider joining me on this journey and bringing your interest to computation, because we need you, the world needs you, and we're waiting to see what you will create. Thank you.